Welcome everyone to the Tulsa City County Library and Tulsa Library Trust virtual 2021 Zarrow Award for Young Readers Literature and the Young People's Creative Writing Contest presentation. My name is Robin Harris, and I am a proud Tulsa Public Schools elementary teacher, a children's book lover, and a member of the Zarrow Award Committee. We are so pleased to have you join us this evening to celebrate the contributions to young readers literature and to the amazing talent of many Tulsa County young creative writers. First, let us all at home applaud those that made this presentation possible. Tulsa City County Library CEO Kimberly Johnson, Judy Kishner of the Zarrow Family Foundation, the Zarrow Award Committee, and the amazing library staff working behind the scenes. Please be sure to join us following the award presentation as we recognize the winners of the 2021 Young People's Creative Writing Contest. I am pleased to introduce the Library of Congress National Ambassador for Young People's Literature, Coretta Scott King Award honoree, Newbery Award winner, New York Times bestselling author, among other awards, and Instagram host Brain Yoga, Jason Reynolds. Mr. Reynolds was born in Washington, D.C. and grew up in Maryland with his mother and siblings. Rap music served as his inspiration to begin writing poetry. As a children's book lover, my first introduction to Mr. Reynolds' books was in 2017, when scrolling online to find middle grade and young adult books to read. The cover and summary of When I Was the Greatest captured my attention. I put the audiobook on hold at the library. While I don't have much in common with Ali, the main character, I admired his loyalty and his humility. And his boxing trainer reminded me of my father. Besides When I Was the Greatest, Mr. Reynolds' body of work includes a track series featuring Ghost and Patina, Stamped, Racism, Anti-Racism in You, a young adult adaptation of Candy Ibram's Stamped from the Beginning, the definitive history of racist ideas in America, a National Book Award winner, and Long Way Down, the featured title that was shared with young readers in Tulsa County. Mr. Reynolds' books provides readers with characters that deal with relatable experiences, such as different family structures, disability and death of family members, and everyday choices young people have to make, providing both mirrors and windows, signaling to readers that their stories and lives matter. Mr. Reynolds is to be commended for using the power of language in engaging young readers. Earlier today, Mr. Reynolds conducted a virtual classroom visit with learners from Booker T. Washington's freshman class. Librarian Christy Merchant and English teacher Jerisha Blankenship had their writerly lives supported and created amazing memories. Mr. Reynolds once said, "I just want young people to read my books and feel cared for, feel safe, feel like there's someone else in the world who understands or at least acknowledges your existence." Well, Mr. Reynolds, your body of work does just that. Your books have encouraged learners to complete a book for the first time, has inspired young writers to bravely tell and speak their truth without guilt or shame. Your books have also created space for teachers to teach beyond the required curriculum and spark a love of reading, writing, and social awareness and involvement within their students. On behalf of the Tulsa City County Library, the Tulsa Library Trust, and the young people of Tulsa County, we are pleased to present Jason Reynolds with the 2021 Zarrow Award for Young Readers Literature.
This would be the part where if we were in person, there would be applause. I'm super grateful to be here, everybody. Thank you so much. Shout out to Tulsa, to the Tulsa City County Library. Thank you very much to the committee. Thank you very much to all the young folks at Tulsa. Got love for you. I appreciate you. in a very real way. I want to thank Judy Kishner, who I got to talk to for a while, and just a wonderful person, and thank her parents for the generosity and for their philanthropy and making sure that this kind of thing continues. Not for me, but for the young people, for sure. You know, it's interesting when you win anything or when you're being acknowledged, depending upon where you are in your life, the way that you receive the award can vary. Right now, I'm kind of in a funny place. When I was thinking about what I wanted to say this evening, when I was thinking about what did I have to offer this particular space, I couldn't help but think about my father. People who know me, if you've been following my career, if you've been sort of with me along this journey, you know, I talk about my mom all the time. I have like a wild relationship with her, and you know, she's like she's probably my best friend, and we're very close. And it's you know, one of the lights of my life is my relationship with my mother. But I also had a father who is no longer alive. We lost him last year, and he too was a fascinating man. So I'm going to tell you all just about his last days. Don't worry, it's not going to be sad. I'm not sad, so don't worry. There ain't going to be no crying and none of that. Don't trip, because I'm not. And you'll understand why I'm not sad. But I do want to. I want to frame my thank you around what I learned from him in the last few days of his life. December 22nd, I go see him, right? And I remember going to the house. He was in hospice, home care. And I went to his house, and it was me and my older brother, and we're sitting at his bedside. And at this particular time, you know, he's awake, he's conscious, he's coherent, he's good. He can speak still, he can still speak. And you know, he told us that he was exhausted. You know, guys, I want to tell you the truth, man. I'm tired. I've had enough. Cool. For us, we had been going through this process for so long that none of this was particularly painful or surprising, right? Our father had been dying for a very long time. And so we knew that he was nearing the end. He knew he was nearing the end. And so he wanted to just be very upfront with us and say, guys, I'm exhausted. In this moment, though, I also realized I have to make sure that if there's anything left I need to ask this man, this would be the time. And so even though we had had so many conversations over the years of him sort of slowly deteriorating, and we had fixed all of our problems, and we, you know, he told me all of the stories. It's a wild thing when it comes to your parents, because sometimes you just want to hear the same stories over and over again, which, by the way, is directly connected to who we are as children in our bedtime stories, right? In bedtime stories, you can hear the same story over and over and over again. It's like, I just want to hear you read it again. I want to hear you tell it again every single night. Even though I know the story, I want to hear it again and again. There's something comforting there. There's something about your voice. There's something about me knowing the twists and the turns of the story, as long as it's being told by you, right? And so I say, you know what, Pop? Tell me again, man. If you got to give me your, you know, give me some advice. I know you've given me all the advice over the years, and you know, I've heard it all before. But just one more time before you go, give me what you think I really need to know, right? What's the key to this life thing? He said, son, I'm going to tell you again. I've told you this a million times, but I'll tell you again. He said, son, make sure that you remember that you give freely, give openly. Service is the greatest gift that we all have to give, right? Serve, man. Always give everything you have, right? And then he said, but let me be clear what I mean by that. He said, when it comes down to giving, you never want to give anyone the things that you don't want. He said, what you always want to do is make sure that you give people all the things that you do want. That way you'll know true sacrifice. Like, nobody wants your leftovers. Nobody, like, I understand the concept behind giving someone, like, oh, I don't like this anymore. I don't want it. I don't need it, right? You can have it. But true sacrifice, true love has nothing to do with charity, right? True love is about sacrifice, right? And so he said, remember that you never give away what you don't want. You always give away what you do want. I said, thanks, Pop. Now, I'd heard that 30 years, right? He'd been telling us the same thing over and over again, but it felt just as warm and just as important as it used to feel when I was a kid. My older brother and I hop in the car. We go back to my house. We have dinner. We talk about our father for a while. We laugh a little bit. We go to bed. December 23rd, next day, we go to the house, go see our father. On this day, he is, overnight, he has deteriorated to the point that he's now in and out of consciousness. He's sort of slipping in and out of consciousness. And his voice, he's struggling to speak. He doesn't have a lot of energy, and it's taking an awful lot for him to form words. And so we're just kind of sitting at his bedside. We don't want to do too much or ask him too much because we don't want him to exert the energy, because we know that if he's conscious, he's going to try to talk. So we don't want to push it, because he has kids and he loves his kids and he wants to make sure that he says whatever he needs to say if he can. At the same time, though, my stepmother is playing some sort of orchestral Christmas music, right? It's beautiful. It's setting the tone, like a festive tone for the house in the midst of such a fractured time, right? The house it smells like Christmas. Even though my father was dying upstairs, she has somehow figured out how to really set the tone to make it still feel festive in a strange way, right? But this music, as beautiful as it is not the music that my father likes. My father grew up a bad boy, right? A gangster, motorcycles and fast cars. My father grew up on the edge, right? Classical Christmas music is not what's pumping in his blood. When we were kids, my father would sit outside and smoke a cigar, and he'd turn his car on and he'd have the blues playing, Jimi Hendrix playing, B.B. King, he'd have the Rolling Stones playing, he'd have John Lee Hooker playing, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf. This is what we grew up on. He was a man who was rough around the edges, gentle and sweet, but like he was a guy covered in tattoos. My mother used to always say, I fell in love with your father because he was a bad boy. And I had never known anybody like that before. He had all the charisma of a bad boy. He talked like he had seen things that most of us hadn't seen. And so for him to be sitting in this hospital bed in his house, he had one of those adjustable beds in the house, for him to be sitting there with classical Christmas music playing, and he's just sitting there. When he's awake, he's just sitting there sort of like, half-lidded. It seemed disingenuous, unfair, and strange. My older brother and I looking at each other, kind of giving the signals like, what is this playing in the house? And so me, being the middle child, which I am, therefore naturally always the one most rebellious, I decide to change the music. So I go over and I hit the knob and I turn the music and turn it to the blues. And I think the first song that comes on is, I think maybe it was Little Richard. I think it was Lucille. Little Richard comes on. My father's eyes open up, boom, big. He sits up in the bed and he starts to sing along, word for word. He's looking at us, looking at my older brother and I. He gets the shimmy in his shoulders, he gets the pat in his knees, and he's singing it on. Next song is The Thrill Is Gone, B.B. King. And he gets to singing The Thrill Is Gone. Now he's talking to us. Guys, how long you guys been here? Man, I remember when this song came out. I remember where I was. I remember how it made me feel. I remember who I was with. I remember what car I was driving. I remember the motorcycle. I remember what I had on, right? He's giving us the whole thing and we're having this conversation. And at that moment, my brother and I are amazed at the fact that our father has come back to life. And we let that happen for about an hour. We laugh, we joke until he exhausts himself. And then we say, Pop, we're gonna go ahead and leave. And he says, no, don't go yet. Stay a little longer. We say, okay, we'll stay a little longer. And we stay another hour. And then we say, Pop, we're gonna leave. You go ahead and get some rest. And he says, oh, don't worry about me. I'm getting a whole lot of rest real soon. And he busts out laughing. We bust out laughing. Seems like a crude joke to tell, but at the end of the day, if you knew my father, you would know why that's the perfect joke to tell. Not only was it the perfect joke to tell, it was the last thing he would ever say to us. Therefore, it was a gift, a joke. His final words to his children, a joke about his own death. Why do I tell this story? Because the truth of the matter is that when I look at my career, and I'm grateful for receiving this award, and I'm grateful for all the supporters, the kids, the teachers, the librarians, everybody, I'm so grateful, but I ain't doing nothing but what my daddy taught me to do. You give away the things that you want. These are stories that are connected to me. These are not just throwaways, none of them. These are not just willy-nilly me sort of writing anything. No, that's not what's happening. Every single book that you've ever read of mine is connected to my life, connected to my insides, right? These are intrinsic stories that are coming from the inside out, and I am giving them away. I am sharing them because they mean so much to me, and therefore I want to share them with you. If they didn't mean nothing to me, I wouldn't dare give them to you because I wouldn't disrespect. I love you too much to disrespect you like that by giving you my throwaways. I love you too much, young person, to give you what I don't want. I want for you what I want for myself. So if this is something that is coming from me and connected to my life, something that I love and can stand on and can swear by, then I want you to have a little piece too. I want you to have the lion's share, as a matter of fact. I know I can give more because I know where it comes from. Let me give something to you. I'm just doing what my daddy took. This is what we were raised to do, to sacrifice. Every single day I get up in the morning and I do this. All day long today, I've been doing this. The award is sweet, but the truth of the matter is I've been talking to these kids all day. So even though I'm grateful for the award, I was already awarded. I've been awarded. This is a formality. I've been talking to children all day in Tulsa. So the award is cool, but I've made a sacrifice already. That's where the award is, in the sacrifice. Teachers, librarians, y'all make sacrifices, right? If we're not sacrificing, can we say we really love? If we're not risking anything, can we say we really love? Right? These are the things that I want us to think about. And then lastly, I learned a valuable lesson watching my father come to life. You know why he came to life? You know why I wasn't working with the classical Christmas music? Because that classical Christmas music ain't had nothing to do with him. It wasn't connected to him. It wasn't attached to him. It wasn't tethered to his psyche. It wasn't embedded in his consciousness. None of it existed in him. But the moment I played the blues, something that was rooted in him, he recognized it. He grabbed the whole, brought life back to his body, brought spirit back to his life. That's what happens when you give a young person a book that they can see themselves in, right? And it's not always seeing yourself physically, seeing your physical, nah. Sometimes it's seeing yourself as the intrinsic part of you, the interior of your life, seeing your secrets in. That's what happens. They come to life, slipping in and out of consciousness until you give them the right thing, until they see the right thing, until somebody decides to turn the channel, turn the station, change the music. I know this is classical. I know these are musicians who have trained for decades to be able to play this music. I know the violin is so hard to play. I know the embouchure you have to play a clarinet and a saxophone. Right? I recognize how difficult it is to callous your lip to play the trumpet this way. I understand timpani drums. I get it. I get the training and the beauty and the brilliance and the intellectual capacity one must have in order to play orchestral music. And I understand also that it don't matter if it don't connect to the person who is hearing it. B.B. King was classical as far as I'm concerned. Miles Davis was classical as far as I'm concerned. That's what my father understood. He needed to hear his classics. He needed to hear the thing that was rooted in his experience, his existence, his life, his childhood. He could remember everything for an hour. And in that hour, because he could remember everything, he was able to give his children a gift on the way out. You see, it ain't about just what we give these kids. It's about what they're going to be able to give back to us and to the world. This world-saving work, world-changing work, right? A simple thing of just acknowledging who a child might be and serving that child where they are could save a child's life. And in saving that child's life, it could save yours, or at least give it more value. So I'm grateful for the award. I thank y'all for the award. I promise to continue to do the work that I've been doing. I promise to continue to love our children. I promise to continue to love y'all teachers and librarians. But ultimately, I want to make sure that we all understand what we're here for. Awards are wonderful things, but they're not meant for us to rest on our laurels. They're meant for us to be even more fortified when it comes to the work to come, the work ahead. That's it, and that's all. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good night. Now, I'm going to throw it back to my buddy Leah.
Jason, if you don't mind hanging out another second, we had a couple questions in the live stream that we might want to see if you have time to answer.
Of course, of course.
Okay, so our first question, one of our Tulsa writers asks, does writing have to be your full career, or can you do other things too?
Writing doesn't have to be your full career. There are days where I wish writing wasn't my full career. You know, I think, you know, if I could give any advice to a lot of young writers, it would be to keep a job. You know, it's hard to write what you want to write when you got to worry about writing, paying your bills. People don't want to tell you that, but it's the truth, right? It doesn't have to be your career. We write because we love it. Don't worry about it. All the extra stuff is extra stuff. Just do your work, right? Because you love it. If you make money doing it, cool. If you don't, cool. You know, just write because you love it.
Awesome. So there's another question that we have here that is, how do you get through the middle of a story? I'm writing a story right now, but I'm in the middle and I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah, I was talking to some youngins earlier. It's the hardest part, right? That beginning and end, you got that part down, right? That middle gets a little shaky. I think here's it's tough because everybody has their own process. But what I will tell you is the two tricks that I do is, number one, if you get stuck, introduce a new character to the story, right? It's like real life. Whenever things are stuck in your real life, as soon as a new person show up in your classroom, and shake it up a little bit, don't it? As soon as your cousin come to visit, shake it up a little bit, don't it? Right? So introduce a new character into the story. And if you don't want to introduce a new character, then introduce a new idiosyncrasy into your protagonist. And what I mean by that is if your protagonist might not be interesting enough. So add something, add a tick, add an interest, a weird interest that we don't know they have, you know? Create something more interesting in the protagonist that will then sort of expand the plot. So either new character or new character trait.
Awesome. Okay, and another question from writers, clearly. How can you write description words where it isn't too much, but it isn't too little?
Yeah, that's something you got to feel out, you know? You'll figure it out. At the end of the day, I think you can create systems for yourself that don't stick to them, but you can create systems to yourself where you say, all right, in one paragraph, I'm only going to use descriptive language maybe twice, right? Or maybe once in a paragraph, right? You know, because don't get me wrong, young folks, like I don't want y'all to ever forget this. There's nothing more powerful than a short, lucid sentence. Clear, a short, clear sentence. Nothing. And what happens is as we grow up, we feel like I got to write really complicated sentences. No. Short, clear sentences are always work. They're always going to work, right? And so what you want to do is you want to pepper in the flavor every now and then. It's like being a drummer. If you play the drums, you can't solo the whole time. You got to hold the beat. And every now and then you hit the cymbal. That's how you have to think about it, right? So maybe once every paragraph or once every 6 lines, you know, and think about it that way until you find your rhythm, you know.
Yes. So our next question is, in Long Way Down, what's the real ending? And I heard your opinions about this earlier, so I'm glad to hear them again.
Yeah. You'll never know. The real ending is what you think the ending is. There's no actual answer. The answer is whatever you think the answer is. I wrote the book so that it could have all the different possibilities to whatever you guys come up with. I've heard multiple theories and all of them are supported in the book because I thought all of that through when I was writing the book. But the reason why I won't give you the answer is because I respect you too much to do so. If I give you the answer, what I'm basically saying is that you're not smart enough to figure this out on your own. And I know that's not true, right? I respect you enough to say that you have the ability to reason for yourself and to imagine what you might want to see happen and let that live as it is. So that's all you'll get from me forever and ever and ever. Maybe I'll write it in my will. When I'm dead, I'll put the answer in there.
That would really be great. The library archives would want your papers even more.
I know.
So one question that came up here too is, have you written about your father? He sounds like a very interesting and wise man.
Yeah, I'm writing about him now. I don't know what it's going to be. I mean, I'm working on a novel for adults actually, and there's a bit of that stuff in there, but I think I'm going to write a collection of essays because my father was a really interesting, larger than life character, and his death and the way that we experienced that death together was a very special thing for us. And we don't always think about death as a phenomenon, but it's a phenomenon. And I want to write about my experience and how transformative and how beautiful, how painful, yes, but also how beautiful it actually was. So we'll see.
Okay, and I think this will probably be our last question for this segment. A young writer says, in my life, I've heard a lot of, I completely support you, but I just kind of think that you're kind of weird and I'll never be like you. How can I show that kind of thing in my work, in my writing? And how can I show that I need to be truly respected?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in your writing, I think the beauty of being a person who is criticized and sometimes picked on or looked at sideways is that we oftentimes have different emotional cues. We oftentimes have higher senses of empathy. My older brother was bullied in school because he was in special education and he had learning differences. And we always tell, he's 45 years old, and we always talk about how he could never call a person stupid ever in life. Can't do it because he has a level of empathy that was built through what he went through as a young person. So first I want to say, even though it may feel terrible now, it is building something really special in you that it shouldn't have to be built this way for sure. No one deserves that. But just know that that empathy for you will be a superpower. A superpower. And because you want to write, whether for hobby or professionally, whatever it is, because you want to write, that superpower becomes your greatest weapon. I don't get to make the things I make if I can't feel nothing. So your question is, how can I write this in the book? You know what it feels like. That's it. That's all you need. You know what it feels like because you just articulated it to me. So you know what it feels like. That's what you want to write down. That's how you want to make it. That's how you want it. Like that. That is it. That's all it takes. Is to know how it feels and to put it on the page. And in terms of you knowing that, look, you being respected, listen, at the end of the day, there are lots of ways you can make that known and make that clear. I mean, one thing is you say it, right? Let people know, look, I'm not going to be disrespected. It is what it is. Like, I'm going to be respected. As long as ain't nobody putting their hands on you, right? I want to be clear with you, right? Because we have all these feelings about being uncomfortable and being unsafe, right? They're not the same things. If you're made uncomfortable, make it clear. I'm not going to be made uncomfortable. If nobody's touching you, nobody's putting their hands on you, then like we can navigate this space in a very different way by saying, hey, whether it be, hey, leave me alone, whether it be, look, I'm not going to be disrespected, whether it be making sure teachers know what's going on, like you can use all of your resources around you. But I want to make sure you know this, the ones that blaze the trail are always teased. They tease you until they realize you're not going to change. Then they copy you. Don't never forget I told you this. They tease you until they realize that you won't bend, you won't break, and then they will copy you. Mark my words for it. You ain't even gonna have to ask for respect. You'll see. They will copy you.
That's so true. And I know I said that was the last question, but there are two more questions that came in that I know you have really good answers for. And because we're librarians here, we want to hear those answers too.
Sure.
So the first question is, what musical artists move you? And then the second question is, what are some authors that you would suggest?
What musical artists move me? See, I grew up like the last young person. I was an art kid. And so even though I grew up in an environment where there weren't many art kids, or at least that could be art kids, you know what I mean? I was an art kid. I had a father who was a musician and grew up on rock and roll. I had a mother who was a Southerner and grew up on Motown. And I had a brother who had enough years older than me to introduce me to like rap music and dancehall and like all sorts of other things. And so my household at any given time was just like all kinds of stuff, right? So who moves me? Well, it depends on what we're talking about. I don't think there's a greater album than Tracy Chapman's 1988 Tracy Chapman album. I think it's perfect, beginning to end. Every single word, every single song. It moves me tremendously. My father used to play it when he cut our hair, which is a weird thing for him to play, but that's what he played, right? And to this day, it is top 20 greatest albums of all time, right? Same time though, I mean, anytime I hear Aretha Franklin's voice, I can feel it in my belly. I can feel it in my body. It can give me chills, right? At the same time, I love like You know, I think about NBA Youngboy. I think that kid is super talented. I think he's got some pain that he has to work out. I want him to live long enough to see him come into his own. But I think that kid's got talent, a lot of talent. You know, J. Cole just announced that his new album's about to come out. Can't wait. He moves me. Kendrick Lamar moves me. Tupac moves me. Nas, Biggie, they are Queen Latifah moves me. Still moves me. Right? The blues. How can you hear The Thriller's Gone and not be moved? How can you hear, Tobacco Road and not be moved? How can you hear St. James Infirmary and not be moved? How can you? I mean, like, I can go on and on and on. I mean, I'm a music kid. I grew up with all of that. And jazz, tears, man, make you cry. Ma Rainey, women in the blues. Rosetta Tharpe, you know what I mean? Arguably the woman who created rock and roll who don't get no credit for it. We can go on and on. I won't, but lots of people. Even like 90s, like emo stuff, like Def Cab for Cutie. When I was coming up, that stuff was like, it was genius, right? People teased you about it, and then years later, they were like, this is great. All right, and what books? Lots of stuff. I told the kids earlier, Jesmyn Ward, Salvage the Bones is the greatest book of the 21st century. This is the greatest book of the 21st century, and it's not close. If there is a child of Morrison, if anyone is a child of Morrison, it is Jesmyn Ward. And by the way, it is only Jesmyn Ward, if you ask me. So read that. What else have I been reading? Read Case and Calendar, King and the Dragonflies, a masterpiece. Read Candace Elo, Everybody Looking, it's brilliant and very different than what we think of when we think of YA, because it covers a whole life, basically. Read this new Tochi Onyebuchi book. It's called Skin Folk. Finally having a conversation about the divide between American Africans and African Americans, right? Like that division that we all know is there. And he's really getting at it and talking about it. It's brilliant. This is, if you want a love story, this book is brilliant, beautiful. It's called Open Water. It's a beautiful love story. I mean, it is like, it's delicious. Please read this. I can go on and on and on and on and on, but I won't bore you.
I don't think anybody watching could ever be bored by you speaking, first off. But second off, hearing about books is all of our bread and butter, because we want to never stop hearing about awesome books and awesome authors.
So.
Thank you so much for sharing your story today and for sharing your time with us right now. And I know that you're going to hang on and see our Young Writers Awards. So what I would like to do now is share a video from a young student who is a super fan of yours and who wanted to deliver you a personal message. So I'm going to share Mason's video at this time.
Hi, Jason Reynolds. My name is Mason Curran Moore. I'm in the 8th grade, and I'm from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I have read all of your books, and I have loved all of them, but my favorite one is As Brave as You. I feel like the two characters represent my brothers and our relationship in real life. Hope you create more books and win more awards. Thank you. Goodbye.
Oh, man. I want to say, could I just say something right quick?
Of course.
So I want to say that book, As Brave as You, it means the world to me that that's his favorite one, because that's my favorite one. And it's the one that is least read, but I think it's the best one. And so it just means the world, because what it is that it's a quiet book, right? There's not a lot of nothing's happening. It's just brothers spending the summer with their grandfather. And the fact that that's the one that he's like, yo, this is the one that this is my favorite one, means that, like, for me at least, it means that there's something important for me, especially to see this young Black boy, which matters to me, to see a young Black boy say, the one I love most is to see a young Black kids just live normal lives, have an opportunity to just be bored in the summertime, and that this is the one I love the most. So to that young brother, I just want to say thank you, and that is truly a gift from me. Thank you I feel very encouraged, because I love that book and it just doesn't get read very often. And thank you.
Well, we definitely thank Mason very much for sharing that message with us and us being able to share with you, Jason. So now we are going to talk about the second part of our award ceremony today, which is the Young People's Creative Writing Contest Awards. But I have to say, just bridging from your presentation, Jason, it was so insightful and moving, and people are already texting me that they have had chills, that your words have moved them to strong emotion. So please know the impact that you have on all of us in Tulsa and elsewhere. I actually first encountered Jason Reynolds' work in 2015 when I picked up When I Was the Greatest, much like our Zarrow Award chair, Robin Harris. I immediately saw Jason's special appeal to readers, and with the generosity of the Tulsa Library Trust, the library was able to host Jason for a visit to Tulsa in 2016. When he visited Central High School, the students there challenged him to perform some of his poetry, which he did, but he then in turn challenged them to perform their own poems in an impromptu poetry slam. He focused intently on these young poets' work and gave their performance respect and admiration. That was really special for me to see, because the goal of the library's Young People's Creative Writing Contest is to encourage young writers by taking their work seriously. By providing a venue for them to enter their writing to win cash prizes and to be awarded alongside a best-selling author in front of their friends and family, we aim to give young writers a platform and a spotlight that will foster an even deeper commitment to their writing work. This contest originated in 1985 thanks to a very special librarian named Rosemary Moran. Over the years, many writers who have participated in the library's contest have gone on to become editors, playwrights, novelists, and other writing professionals. It's deeply moving to hear some of those writers talk about what the contest meant to them and how encouraged they were to take their own writing work seriously as a result of placing in the contest. And I'm sure that it will be no different for writers from this year's contest. This year, we had over 380 entries from students around Tulsa County in 5 categories: poetry, short story, informal essay, short play, and comics. Each category is awarded for first, second, and third place across 3 age divisions: 10 to 12, 13 to 15, and 16 to 18. One small note, this year in the 10 to 12 division, there were not enough short play entries to judge that category, so you will not see awards named for it. And before I begin announcing this year's winners, I also want to talk about a very special award, which will be announced at the end, and that is the Writer to Watch Award. This is given to the writer who has placed in the given contest year, is aging out of the contest, and has placed the most times overall in their years of eligibility for the contest. Every writer to watch is truly a gifted individual, so keep an eye out for their future endeavors. Now, let's announce some winners. So in poetry, ages 10 to 12, first place goes to Elliot Belisai for My Dream. Second place goes to Sonia Erlinger for Faraway Friends. Third place goes to Ava Brown for Wildest Dream. In ages 13 to 15 poetry, first place goes to Elaine Gao for What the West Wind Saw. Second place goes to Abigail Coakley for Human, a Reverse Poem. Third place goes to Madeline Reimer for My Birthday Sleepover. In ages 16 to 18, first place goes to Alexa Wickland for Daughter. Second place goes to Julie Allison for Polly. Third place goes to Jason Sanchez for Quinceañera. In short story, ages 10 to 12, first place goes to Danica Glidden for A Valentine's Coming Out. Second place goes to Abigail Woodward for The Giving Girl. Third place goes to Hudson Avery for A Ninja Quest. In ages 13 to 15, first place goes to Miriam Logsdon for Babcha's Necklace. Second place goes to Elaine Gao for Who's the Robot? Third place goes to Dakota Williamson for Chasing Stars. Ages 16 to 18, first place goes to Trace Burchart for A Comprehensive List of Things That I Hate. Second place goes to Abigail Fincher for A Wish for Beth. Third place goes to Victoria Klingon for The Dog Hates Greg. And in informal essay, ages 10 to 12, first place goes to Adelaide Mize for My Favorite Mistake. Second place goes to Dia Pushpraj for Therapists in School. Third place goes to Isaac Blaylock for Tulsa Race Riot Massacre. In short play, ages 13 to 15, first place goes to Lauren Fairfield for Inside Joke. Second place goes to Oswaldo Atalano for The Fear Among Immigrants. Third place goes to Molly Avery for The Pete Incident. In informal essay, ages 16 to 18, first place goes to Sarah Ray for 5 O'Clock Memories. Second place goes to Natasha Perez for Exploring Atlas. Third place goes to Alexa Wickland for Quarantine Blues. In short play, ages 13 to 15, first place goes to Harini Senthil for Life in Balance. Second place goes to Elaine Gao for Monica. Third place goes to Charlotte Palmer for After the Wizard of Oz. In short play, ages 16 to 18, first place goes to Trace Burchart for Little Miss Conspiracy. Second place goes to Aramea Sewell for Examination. Third place goes to Brianna Miracle Lewis for King V Finds His Raison d'etre. In comics, first place in ages 10 to 12 goes to Ash Geringer for John the Ninja and the Horrible Hungry Bots. Second place goes to Julia Isley for The Choice Before Us. Third place goes to Xian Bong for Nightmare. In comics ages 13 to 15, first place goes to Eowyn Geringer for Tribute. Second place goes to Nathan Thompson for Checkmate. Third place goes to Harini Senthil for When Pigs Fly. In ages 16 to 18, first place goes to Lillian Phillips for Snake Eyes. Second place goes to Aloria Sewell for Concealed. Third place goes to McKenna Smoliak for Love. And this year's Writer to Watch Award goes to Alexa Wickland. Congratulations, Alexa, for placing the most times previously in your years of eligibility. I know that we will be watching you for many years to come to see what amazing work you continue to produce. So now that we have awarded our young writers, let's all have a round of applause for them. Everybody at home, please clap along. And all of the family members of our young writers, I hope that you are cheering them right now as they sit next to you. And also, I want to point out that everyone can read all of our writers' winning entries if you go to tulsalibrary.org/YPCWC. So if you go to tulsalibrary.org/YPCWC, you can read all of our writers' winning entries. So now, at this time, I'm going to invite our Zarrow Award Committee Chair, Robin Harris, and our Zarrow Award recipient, Jason Reynolds, to turn your cameras back on, come back in, and we can all say our last few words to everyone at home. And Jason, we just want to thank you so much for being willing to accept this award and join us in Tulsa for many, many Zoom calls today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I appreciate y'all. To everybody watching at home, thank y'all. I love you. Stay healthy, do good, be good. And I see you on the next one.
And Robin Harris, thank you so much for chairing the Zarrow Award Committee here and introducing our author and being a part of bringing Jason to Tulsa and to our Tulsa audience.
Thank you, Leah.
And I also want to thank the donors that have made this event possible. So thank you very much to the Ann and Henry Zarrow Foundation, to the Tulsa Library Trust, and to special shout out to Judy Kishner for just making all of this possible, including our educator workshop, our classroom visits, and all of our associated programs with this event, as well as the Young People's Creative Writing Contest. So to everyone watching at home, thank you for joining us, and we hope that you will have a fantastic evening and that you will continue to read Jason Reynolds' work that you can check out from the library. We have many, many copies available in all formats. And also, we hope that if you are ages 10 to 18, that you will work very hard on your writing and submit it to the Young People's Creative Writing Contest, because next year this could be your name that we're announcing, and you could have a special visit with a next year's Zarrow Award winning author. So, in closing, we just want to say thank you so much to everyone that has made this possible. And we hope that you guys have a fantastic evening.